a mad world we live in. I try and keep up with the news. I've said before that when I do look at it, I look at, all the mainstream ones, and then I go to the internet and I look at some lesser known ones. I mean, you're talking anything from Bloomberg to The Guardian to Fox to CNN to MSNBC to, channels like these and all sorts of things. I like Steve Ben-Nun from Israeli News Live, so on and so forth, and the list goes on. But I don't always get a chance to look at it, and sometimes I take deliberate breaks from looking at the news. I recently have taken a break, but I'm back to trying to pay attention. We've got to pay attention. We do need to be paying attention to what's going on, so we know how we can respond, so we know, what to do, what to expect, so we can discern ideas and plans and things that may, better situations for us personally or for our communities or perhaps even our state and, dare I say, our country. I do think elections are
fair and proper.
The larger they are, the more profile they are, obviously presidential and, on down, but even on local levels. So let's think about today, a local level thing. Today is an anniversary of Marvin Heemeyer and his Killdozer in, what was the name of that town? It was in Colorado. I can't remember the name of the town, but a little town in Colorado. And this guy back in the early 90s, Marvin Heemeyer, he purchased some land. He opened a muffler shop. Don't know the exact details. I was trying to look at some of this today, and there's, just like with every bit of news, there's 2, 3, 4, 5 sides of the story, depending on the slant of that person or organization delivering the story. But nonetheless, Marvin Heemeyer, in this little town in Colorado, Granby, I think is what it was. Granby, Colorado. I may be wrong about that, but back in the early 90s, he bought some land, opened a muffler shop, and over the next roughly 10 years, there was a deal. The land, it was like a government trust land of some kind, and so all of a sudden, once it became for sale and Heemeyer bought it, shortly thereafter, I think the land increased in value by 10 or 20 fold, significantly anyway, and a concrete mixing plant wanted to purchase some of this land adjacent, I guess, to his muffler shop and put a building up. And I want to say he was in negotiations with them. Again, I'm going to try and get away from the details. Sorry. Long story short is this guy, I believe, was just a regular guy, like most of us. Had a little opportunity to make and build a business, went about it, did so, attempted to anyway, and when big money got involved and big contracts got involved, this concrete refinery or plant or whatever it was, not refinery, but wanted to move in, and of course he did want to sell. Well, he knew what his land was worth at that point, but they didn't want to play ball. They wanted to pay pennies on the dollar. And all of the local officials, or many of them anyway, including a judge, seemed to be in favor of these folks that were starting the concrete place. And again, trying to be long story short, they built this place. They cut off access to Heemeyer's muffler shop, road access, driveway access. In the way they built it, he petitioned the town. He said, hey, I got to have access so, people can come to my business. He was not even heard. He wasn't even counter-offered anything, as I understand it, if I'm telling this right. And the long and short of it is, over many years, this guy, Heemeyer, was railroaded, and all of his attempts to just save his business. Didn't mind that the concrete company wanted to move there. Didn't mind that, there had to be a new access road. He even bought a bulldozer, a D9, to cut his own road, offered to pay for it all himself. He said, I bought a bulldozer, I'll do the work, I'll do the whole thing. Just let me get access to my business. And they didn't allow him to do that. In the construction of the concrete plant, somehow or another, the construction crews either turned off or severed or something his sewage line. And then Heemeyer was subsequently fined, I think on a daily basis, for not having proper sewer runoff access piping. And the trouble with what it is the concrete company was not held responsible for it, nor was the town itself of whatever, Granby, Colorado, if I'm remembering the town correct. And so Heemeyer was expected to pay I think close to $100,000 to run the 60 feet or so, whatever it was, of pipe to get sewage. So anyway, this guy did everything he could. In his own words, I was willing to be reasonable until they made me become unreasonable. This is where I think many of us are today. Maybe we should be. Anyway, so Heemeyer, exasperated, exhausted, having lost his business at some point finally, nobody in the town, all the officials and everything involved, nobody gave a rat's ass. They didn't care. In fact, they blocked him at every move, and they protected those with the money interests. And they just wanted to squeeze this guy out, make him shut up and go away so they could go about with their profitability schemes, right, and their cronyism and everything that was going on. So Heemeyer eventually, everything, his business and equipment and everything went into auction, and he did end up, with a little bit of money enough. And one thing, oddly, that did not get auctioned off was his D9 bulldozer. And so with a little bit of money from what he was able to sell and hang on to, no business, no win, no one caring in the town about his plight, he rented a storage unit, pulled the D9 in there, and over a year and a half, he constructed armor 3 feet thick on all sides with bulletproof glass and a few lookouts, had cameras mounted all over the thing, had monitors inside, had built him an air conditioning system inside so he'd stay cool, and he designed this thing in such a way that it would be virtually indestructible, that he would be completely safe inside there from gunfire and other means of trying to stop him. And he also made it so that once he got inside and sealed the top, he knew he wasn't coming out. He left information and notes at his house, and he left a note in the I think in the dozer itself that said, like I said earlier, what was it? I was willing to be reasonable until they made me become unreasonable. Sometimes reasonable men must do unreasonable things. I would say a mantra for today might be sometimes, good and decent and reasonable men have to do things they never thought they would have to do, okay? Because no one else is doing it for us. You might put it that way. So Heemeyer goes on, and he bursts out of this thing once he has, a year and a half later, once he's completed all this armor, and he has a list of specific targets, and they include, this is not an all-inclusive list, but the courthouse, the judge's house, I think the zoning commission office, the electric company of the local town, the utility company or whatever, their headquarters, their building or whatever. And he did all this destruction, went on for over 2 hours, and he was knocking down his targets. No one was killed. His intention was not to kill anybody, but to just destroy this property, basically, say, hey, you cost me a bunch of money, and now this is about to cost you a bunch of money. And he knew he wasn't coming out of it. The governor at the time, and I can't recall who that was, but had actually already put in place, an order for, I think, Apache helicopters and anti-tank missiles and things of that nature. They were going to, they had tried it. The local police and SWAT had tried explosives and, of course, gunfire, and nothing stopped this guy. What stopped him is he got stuck on a foundation in a building, and some rubble fell on him. I think one of his tracks was starting to come apart after over 2 hours, and so he couldn't move anymore, and he ended his own life. Disagree with that part of it, but his life was virtually over anyway. But he didn't have to kill himself. But that's a whole nother discussion. Okay, but nonetheless, he didn't kill anybody except for himself. He inflicted the damage. He made a statement, okay? Whether you agree with what he did or not, the fact that a regular American business owner, doing things right, paying taxes, going through the steps to try and get things done for his business, for his livelihood, getting railroaded the way that he did, with no one caring about it. You know, I mean, everybody involved seemed to be on the take and against him because he's a regular guy with no money and no influence. Cronyism down in small towns all the way up to the big town, right? DC. So let's remember today, June 4th. It is what happened in 2004. So what is this, the 17th anniversary, I guess? Is that right? You guys can do the math. But, you know, I don't necessarily want to honor, well, I do want to. I want to honor this day. I want to honor this guy in a way, okay? I don't find him to be a hero. I don't find him to be, you know, a martyr per se. But this was a guy who was pushed to where he finally decided, all right, I'm pushing back. You guys have pushed me enough, and I'm not going to take it anymore. I think a lot of us feel that way. Something to think about. If you don't know about that story, look it up. Very interesting, the details. And there's also video footage of it, lots of sources. God bless you guys. Thanks so much for being here. I'm the Real World Prepper. Happy June 4th.